Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to our July customer office hour. I'm going to pause for just a moment as we see our guests beginning to enter the session. Looks like that is working. So we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone. We're super excited about our topic for the customer office hour this month. It is all about the Fullcast MCP server. If you're using MCP elsewhere, you know the power of it and the ability to just be able to do work by typing in words. And so we're excited to unveil that today. Before we dive into the session, we have a couple of quick slides here. So first one, just quick introductions from the team here. I'm Ashley, the Director of Customer Education and Engagement, doing all things to help support you all in getting value and growing the way that you're able to use the platform. I'll let Tyler and then Bala introduce themselves.
Tyler, Director of Product of the Plan product, and Bala.
Bala Balabastern, co-founder, CTO, and I'm responsible for all product and engineering at Fullcast.
And a lot of the MCP work. So before we get into the details of today's topics, I actually wanted to just kind of give a little bit of history of how we got where we are today with MCP. I was talking, with Bala and Tyler before this about how I remember 2 years ago when MCP was a thing and Bala was like, this is the future. And I was like, I can't imagine typing to AI to get work done. And now here we are. So Bala, I'd love to get a little bit of that journey, to share with folks.
Sure, yeah. No, 2 years ago, it's been 2 years, and it doesn't feel like it, but it feels longer. But anyway, we started on this journey about 2 years ago when MCP was just published by Anthropic, and we were toying with the idea of making our APIs available to AI agents. And so we released a couple of things in the product. We've had in the product for a couple of years now. One is the version one of our MCP, which was mostly read-only. It had a very small surface area that we sort of exposed because we weren't really sure what people are going to use it for. It was very experimental in terms of the scenarios that we covered there. And then since then, over the last couple of years, we've added some read-write capabilities, workflows, those kinds of things to the MCP. We also shipped an agent on top of that. You'll see it as the Fullcast Assistant in the app. You can turn that functionality on. So that allows you to then interact with the application and the platform using a conversational interface, right? And it not only took advantage of the MCP, but it also added things like documentation and best practices and a bunch of other things. And since then, we've gotten a better picture of how people want to use it. We've gotten a better picture of how the scenarios are getting more and more complex, multi-step workflows that people were trying to do. So based on that, a few weeks ago, I think it's like 4 weeks or 5 weeks ago, we shipped the version two of our MCP, which has an incredible amount of surface area. Covers pretty much most of the read use cases, cross plan through to pay. So that's your territories, targets, coverage, all the way to your commissions, layering across the whole platform. And then also exposed a number of things which are read write. And now you can sort of connect it into whatever the choice of big AI platform that you use, whether it be Anthropic or Google or OpenAI. And you can actually build multi-staged workflows using the MCP layer. So yeah, a lot of work that went into it over the past few months to kind of just expand the scope and expand a lot of the ability for the platform to be available for AI.
Awesome. Thank you for that context. One thing that I will also mention to the audience, please feel free to ask questions at any point during the session today. I've got the Q&A box open. We'll keep an eye on that. You can see the topics here that are going to be included in the demo. Paula just kind of mentioned them all as well. So what we're going to do now is Tyler is actually going to run live demos of several things for us on the call, so you can kind of see what it looks like. And we're kind of just talk through what we're seeing, things to consider, etc. So please feel free to ask questions. And we're excited to kind of show you what we've been cooking.
And
Well,
and Troy, this might just be Tyler all along as
Yeah.
well.
I don't think the whole audience, I'm not sure if the whole audience can see Troy's chat messages to us, but we have a lovely guest who thought maybe that our AI agent in the platform was just Tyler, like behind
In the
the scenes
background.
typing things. So
that'll be my legacy. We'll get the AI assistant to just be called Tyler, and I've
Retired.
the there was a look, and the other thing is if there are any requests of things that you want to see, like throw them in the Ask the channel. I'm happy to do this live. We went and saw a concert about a month ago with Brandy Carlisle, and she took requests live from the audience, and I thought it was amazing. So we will do that, and we'll see what the MCP does together. We're going to try and cover all of these things. And even though reporting is kind of number 4 on this list, we figured we'd start with that because that is a top one. And so let's go into it. The first thing I did, let's click here, in wrong direction, of course, is I had just list out all the tools we have available in our MCP. Says about 138. We're going to use Claude today. I kind of just standardize on Opus 5 High, but this works for with your Sonnet, with ChatGPT, with Fable, if you really wanted to run on Fable. If you've got MCPs running through like Cursor or other like open code, if you're using that. So any of those things you can do. I have set up no skills behind the scenes. There is a couple of very simple instructions to keep the MCP to use a specific plan, mostly because our environments have like 20 or 30 plans in them from testing and things. So just know that there's a lot of potential to build skills and workflows around this to codify what your workflows are. And just today's demo is going to be very wide open, and we'll see how things go. So yes, we're not going to go through all of these right now, but I think I just wanted, to display this to show you that this thing has been really rounded out in terms of a lot of the things that you're used to doing in the UI today. Those APIs, those actions are now available through the MCP. All right.
while
So
you're switching over, I think the other thing that could potentially come up that we can get ahead of is that Paula talked about read versus write, and that the what people are actually able to write is going to honor the existing way that our role-based actions and a role-based access setup works in the platform.
yes.
Yes.
All right. So the first things that we did want to say was just setting up the MCP. You can get these instructions anywhere, but for Claude, you can go to customize, you put in the MCP URL, and then you kind of authenticate. And when you connect, it'll just be logging into Fullcast normally like you do. If you've got an admin, you'll need to send the MCP URL to your admin. That's all in documentation. And Ashley will probably share that out along with some other materials post-call so that you can go ahead and get connected and have access to the MCP. There is also a toggle also available in the settings page of Fullcast. So in fact, we'll just pull Fullcast up here real quick so that we can see it. Sorry for all these screens. So if you go into settings, and then under application settings now in the AI agents, you'll want to toggle this on. this will enable the MCP to also be able to communicate with Fullcast. If this is off, then the MCP will not work. All right. So back to our thing. So first things first, I'm gonna kick off. I'm gonna try and keep this down to like 2 workflows at a single time, because we know AI kind of goes off and does its thing. So the first thing we're gonna do is I want to just run an analysis on all the unassigned accounts that are in the plan that I have. Um, so this is a product plan. I've done a bunch of like setup and configuration in there over time. I've removed things. I actually don't totally know what all of the accounts are that are sitting in unassigned. So part of this is actually kind of a surprise. But so I'm just saying, hey, go do an analysis on the accounts that are in unassigned. And I want to figure out where to prioritize my data enrichment. So for those of you that know, like accounts that drop in unassigned, you usually have data problems. But also, are there any key go-to-market territories that are missing? And then I don't want to see this in an MD file or like a long text thing. Give me something in an HTML format that's easy to read, understand, and action on. So we'll just go ahead and kick that off. And while that's going, it might ask questions. We might have to come back to it. We'll see. Um, we'll go ahead and pull up an account history piece. So prior to this call, I took Sleek Freight Partners and I moved it around a bunch and did some rerun rules. And so if we kind of go back into Fullcast here, and we go into the manage accounts, we can find, this is a very common ask of, well, why is it that Sleek Freight Partners ended up in Enterprise in the first place? And we know that the audit logs have some of that information, and sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to understand because depending on who moved it, if you reran the rules, if you committed it, and depending on where those actions are taking place, it's hard to trace back that stuff. So I've moved this a couple times. I've reran the rules on it. And if we go into our Claude and we kick this off, it'll just go ahead and run an analysis on, well, what happened to our Sleek Freight Partners? So we'll go ahead and let that run its thing, and we'll see if it's still doing the unassigned analysis for us. So if we come in, we can see that it's getting oriented to Fullcast, pulling the tools, using the product plan. This was an instruction that I gave it in this project for the MCP demo. So it's helpful to, if you're doing a skill or anything like that, to say, hey, use the plan that is not in draft mode or use a specific plan unless I tell you otherwise. Otherwise, the MCP is going to be like, well, what plan do you want me to use? I see a default plan, which is the one that you're logged into, but just those types of things are great to put into skills so that you're not always asked a bunch of questions on how to do those things.
And I think too, Tyler, or I don't know how much background makes sense for the audience, but I notice when I'm using it, it has a way that we kind of saw there is that I'm getting oriented to the tenant. And Bala, I think that's, without knowing the mechanics of it, I think that's due to some of the way that you've configured it such that there's some sort of like surveying ability or something that in general it does to kind of get sufficient context. I'm curious if there's information about that that would be interesting.
Yeah, there is so there is a bunch of things that we sort of prep the user with and like Tyler said, selection of a particular plan that you logged into that you last worked on is one of those contexts. The other context, interestingly enough, is the fiscal years. Like, how is your fiscal period defined? Like, what's the start date? What's the end date of the fiscal period? LLMs have no concept of time, so you got to tell it that you're in this fiscal period and so on. And another example of context that we prepare is your currency that you want to see the numbers in, right? So with commissions, for example, you have multi-currency support. So you might want to see your commissions numbers in whatever your local currency is that you want to see. So when you connect in and you sign into Fullcast, there is a collection of those kinds of like preferences, if you will, and a context that gets built up by the MCP, and that'll last your session as long as you're connected in.
Yeah. All right. So it looks like this finished. So here's Sleek Freight Partners, currently sits at the Namer Enterprise in the product plan and prod training. There are 3 manual actions all committed today. I did this all today, which is why it shows this, but if it had a history of up to 90 days, which is what our audit logs hold for you, it would kind of go back and help you trace all of those actions to why is it here today. If you have routing, in the routing logic in the managed package, if you go to metadata settings, CX and can help you kind of toggle this on, but there is the ability to send the policy status to the audit log. And if you do that, that will also be available. And so Claude or your AI client can kind of look at that whole history on that account and really start to understand, well, why is it located in enterprise, or why did it get moved to mid-market? And we can see also that it was me that did the moving. So great. Anything to add here, Bala? This is a very simple example, but I think you can expand this and tell me what happened to these 10 accounts, what happened to a spreadsheet of accounts, those things.
The other common scenario that we heard was analyzing a account family, and sort of trying to understand where all the accounts are. So if you're looking at a big corporate family and the coverage for it is distributed across the different regions and whatnot, you can also just ask it to go analyze a particular account family, and it should be able to give you the breakdown of where the accounts are, who's covering it, and so on.
Yeah, maybe I'll kick this one off with AE coverage. So this kind of ties into the coverage piece. I want to know who's covering what territories. We have a coverage report in Fullcast that does this today where you can pull these people in. But just displaying that you can kind of say, well, show me who's doing that. And then we'll come back in. And what was it, Bala, that we want to do? I wonder, like,
Analyze a corporate family.
analyze.
If you have your favorite, there you go. I knew it
I
was
don't
going to.
think Disney's in this tenant. We need to create
There's
it
no
though.
way it's in this tenant. Let's find
You think
out.
so? Okay.
Okay. Analyze Disney's corporate family. Uh,
And coverage, right? So it not only looks at where the accounts are, but it also looks at who's covering them.
I'm gonna keep this open. We'll see what happens there.
While those are spinning, can I interject a couple questions we've got from the audience?
Yeah.
So one good question here about you mentioned not having added any skills on top of what's baked in. So I just added the clarification there that you are working within a Claude project, and there are some very brief instructions that you added, including which plan you want it to default to using. So Tyler's showing that up on the screen now. That was a great question. Another good one here, does Claude MCP perform actions if a plan is in a draft state? So that's a good one, distinguishing between draft plans or exporting plans, I think. Tyler, can you share about that?
What do you mean distinguishing? I mean, it knows what is draft, what is exporting, but it will execute actions in any plan that you want it to do it, right? So that's where, like, I was very specific about this. I no joke, there's probably 40 plans in prod training.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to use the product plan. So I just gave it this thing to say, hey, use this always, just so it's not asking me in terms of speeding up the conversation that I'm having with it for the demo. But
And
go ahead, Ashley.
I was going to say everything that's happening with the MCP is something that's read write within the Fullcast platform itself. So any of the potential downstream things like exporting something to Salesforce is not going to be run through the MCP today, right, Bala? I think I see some.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The changes that you make will be the same thing as the changes that you make in the UI, and then your typical export and import will take care of moving the data.
Yeah. But I think it like, so to Tyler's point, just to kind of close that thread, if it's in a draft state versus an exporting state, that is something that the system can confirm. You can ask it if you want to know, and you could put context there, like only do actions in a certain type of plan and not in another one. That's completely doable. And then to kind of add on to that, there's a question here about us sharing skills or items suggesting that we add to memory or instructions. 100%. So I'll jot that down specifically for our suggestions on the type of things to include in instructions. But I know as Tyler and I were chatting, there are things kind of simple ones, like if you have a consistent way that you always want to treat account families when you are manually moving accounts, that's something you could bake into the project instruction where you use the Fullcast MCP, such that you say, whenever you move an account, you can go ahead and move all child accounts as well. Don't ask me to confirm this or something like that. But we'll definitely send out a robust resource to start with, and we'll use the questions that we get today to tailor the follow-up content to what folks are asking. So thank you for asking that one.
Yeah,
I love getting questions. Go ahead, sorry.
to expand on that one, oh my goodness, I'm looking at the time. We're gonna need 2 hours to go through all these things. To expand on that, like I just highlighted this here, but you could have the MCP or the AI client go through the MCP to interrogate the go-to-market plan and the rules that are there to understand. Let's say you're moving things in EMEA. Is EMEA following, are the children following parents in EMEA? If yes, then use make sure that the children follow. If it's in a mayor enterprise and they're not following, then use that. So you could probably build a skill around that to teach it to go check your go-to-market rules before doing it. In this case, I didn't want to be asked about whether I wanted to propose or commit or any of that stuff. So I just put it as instructions. But certainly setting a skill out with your specific policy around moving accounts is going to be best case because you can share those skills across the org. They have access to that. So this is essentially a codified workflow for you.
Another great question here from Troy. Is there a list of the Fullcast terms that I could reference to train the model to recognize different words as technical terms, i.e. leaf nodes being referred to something as like book of business or subnode? That's a great question.
It's an awesome question. So one of the things that is included in the MCP is a set of tools known as topics. And what we've done is we've created topics that can teach the agent the specific terms that we use for different things, definitions, relationships between those terms and other terms that we use. And so you could actually just ask it, like, tell me about Fullcast's commission platform, and it'll give you the breakdown of all the terms that we've fed it. And so anything that we sort of commonly use in terms of terminology that has been provided as a resource for the AI agent. And so you could use that, and then on top of it, like you said, build a skill or a system prompt that just says, whenever I say leaf node, that means my book of business, right? And just set that up as well.
I'll test out too for the prompts. I'm thinking like a nice interview me about blah, 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 so that you learn my business's specific terminology. So that's when I think that could also fit that need, that then go create the skill based off the interview.
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay, so coverage report. This is really basic based on a very simple prompt I gave it around just tell me who's covering which territories in July. So it is showing me those people, the territories they're covering with the breadcrumb, and whether they're covering the full month or not. In this case, Zoe is only covering starting July 23rd. And it's gone ahead and said, hey, by the way, there's a bunch of territories that are uncovered. So I could also say, well, I'll even be more direct, assign Nate to APAC 1 starting next week. He is in AE. Hi. All right. So this thing will go ahead and kick off, and because we have a write tool to create an assignment, this thing should go and assign Nate to APAC 1. So while that's going, I think I saw another one that was done, or corporate families. So maybe, is there a lot of Disney's? There's a few. So here's Disney families. This is kind of what Bala had suggested. And so we've kind of went through the Walt Disney Company is the ultimate parent. And it shows that all of them are in unassigned. So um, again, demo environment, test account 3171, probably just randomly linked up in Salesforce. This is Ashley's big project is to clean up our prod training data, but I think that this is great to see. It's also called out what data problems we want to fix. So certainly saying that they don't actually roll up to Walt Disney. So are you sure about that? And then 3 Disney entities that are not in the family. So really, this has actually gone in and found a major data problem for us. And I didn't even ask it to do that. And to call back into the MCP of this is just like this thing has access to all of this read stuff, all of this reporting, and the power of combining whatever AI client you have in the LLM with Fullcast being kind of the source of truth for your go-to-market allows you to really fully understand and find those gaps where your revenue leakages are, where is there revenue potential between all of that, and then drive all of that out of Fullcast back into Salesforce. So this is great.
Anecdotally, I think that's one of the differences. I've played around a bit with using Sonnet versus using Opus, and I think that's one of the differences I've kind of felt is when I'm using Sonnet, I don't get that kind of more proactive stuff. It kind of just sticks more closely to my original ask without inferring other things to do. So that's like a trade-off when you're working with your AI, you're deciding which model you want to use in terms of being efficient with your tokens or whatever the case may be, just kind of a
Yeah,
vibe.
it's true. I mean, and maybe that is part of it is that I have given this is my Claude environment, right? And so it does have some access to a lot of context around what is Fullcast. There's a lot of that I've built up over time, and that is not, that's something that anybody can do. I think when we were talking about the terminologies, we have the glossary that we can reference, and so there's a lot of stuff there. There are multiple roles, so I'm just going to click account executive. But this is stuff where I might put that into like a skill or something to say, like, always when I say these things, just assume that it's an account executive. Just don't ask me questions. Um, just go do it. All right, so let's see if Nate made it underneath the APAC 1 here. So we'll go into the coverage. Oh, Nate, August 3rd. Great.
My
So
favorite thing. I don't know why. It's like a before and after picture of like a hoarding mess. And you're just like, look at that. It's not the same at all. Sorry. It makes me excited.
Um, so this is amazing. Like we've been able to drive this, and I have in a lot of the testing given it spreadsheets. So if you have a spreadsheet of several assignment changes you want to make and you have columns clearly labeled, it can go execute and create those assignments. And the assignments do those types of things for you in Fullcast with the agent.
The mass coverage thing I think is huge because that's something that I think people have asked for. And just given the current, way we have the platform set up, it's not something that's super fast. So this is a game changer.
I want to kick
Um,
off one more thing before we go look at this is done, the big one. So I just want to do an analysis on the go-to-market in Namer and just see if there's any specific industries we should focus in on. This might take some time. So I want to get that going. We'll let that ride. And then the other thing I was gonna do, no, we'll go in and look at this other unassigned account analysis. I'm sorry, Ashley, I cut you off a little bit, but I'm nervous about time now.
If we need to have a part two, we can have a part two. I
Yeah.
talk about this every day, so it's fine.
So we've got a full analysis on our unassigned accounts. Honestly, we can print this out and send it out afterwards as just like this was the output because there's a lot in here. I
Totally.
might even, as I look at these things, tell it to be, more crisp about what we need to do. And so there's additional things that you might want to add into a prompt or a skill if you're doing this on a regular basis to get it more concise. But we have, a lot of accounts sitting in unassigned. We're missing out on 481 million in bookings potential. That is a metric we have in our environment. And surprise, surprise, 96% of them are missing at billing country. So I got some data cleanup I need to do, right? And it's gone through and showed us, where most of these things are. But I want to scroll down a little bit and see if it's given us an actual action item down here. Where to prioritize enrichment. So first go fix your billing country, go enrich the number of employees, enrich our account tier and industry, and then cleanse some stuff here. So there's some high priority items for us to prioritize our enrichment. And we even have a recommended sequence here on what we should do to cover those things. A lot in here. And if we go back into the original prompt, right? I mean, 2 to 3 sentences of this. I can really tailor this down to a very specific ask and get really great results from that. All right, that's still running. You can move accounts. So we're going to just move Saab AB to Enterprise. Honestly, I should just do Sonnet with this, but I'm defaulted in.
This is a great time for me to bring up one of the other good questions we have here. So Adam is asking about if we want to move 100 accounts to explicit leaf nodes, we could leverage Claude, share a list of those accounts, and ask it to have children follow. This would effectively be circumventing the beta CSV upload feature. So question is really to understand which feature to use when the CSV upload. And for folks who aren't familiar, we just recently beta released an ability to move multiple accounts at once using a CSV. And so he's wanting to know the difference or the trade-offs, I suppose, when to use that versus doing this via Claude.
Your
Preference?
your preference, right? Not every customer is going to have MCP enabled, hasn't gone through any security. They might need to go through a security review on the MCP before it gets enabled into their AI clients. There's a lot of those things. And so the CSV upload provides that same functionality from the UI. If you spend most of your day still in the Fullcast UI and you want to do it that way, then that's what it's there for. If you've started to standardize all of your workflows off the MCP and in the AI client, then that is probably where I would also load the CSV in. The whole point between the whole reason we have the MCP and what our goal is with this version 2 is essentially make Fullcast headless, right? So you don't necessarily need to have the UI. It's there for you to use the UI if you prefer the UI or you want to look at things a certain way, but ultimately everything related to revenue operations and go-to-market planning and commissions can be done out of the MCP. Now, there's still things that we have to continue to add tools wise, and you might run into some stuff, but that is kind of the lens for us is to really enable a lot of the stuff that you do day in and day out in Fullcast, also to be able to be done in the MCP. All right, so this proposed SOB in EMEA Enterprise. There was already an uncommitted move on this account from SMB to mid-market, so it's telling me that I did it yesterday. Apparently, I didn't know I did that. That's cool. No subsidiaries, so no children removed, and it asked me if I wanted to commit it. And so we can actually also go into EMEA Enterprise. NC sub here being proposed. But it's also showing me proposed by me because the MCP is logged in through my user. So again, if I didn't have access or tenant admin access to EMEA, nope, it would not work. So RBAC does control or come into play here. So if I'm only assigned to APAC with permissions in APAC, I can only move APAC accounts.
I think one thing you're doing that is probably worth just calling out is that when I'm using MCP elsewhere, I tend to do this where it's like, as you're building trust with any of these tool sets, exactly the workflow that you're doing where you're doing the thing through MCP, doing your propose or whatever, and then you're just validating in Fullcast. I think that's a nice, as you start to work with something, be familiar with how it's working, it does create some trust and confidence in it that like for me in my adoption process has been super helpful just to start to be like, yep, there it is. Great. I like it.
Yeah. And I always also, this is just my behavior with all the AI stuff, is I start really, really simple, really open-ended, learn the path and kind of just the general response I'm gonna get. And then I start kind of codifying skills against it rather than saying, I want you to do all this stuff for me and this is how it is. I kind of work with it over time. And so, and the more open you are with it, the easier it is to kind of start to see gaps with it. And then you can get more specific, is like that output really isn't what I was hoping for. And this is going to be something repeatable. So I'm going to get more specific with my prompt, or I'm going to build a skill around it because I'm doing it daily, or I'm scheduling the something that's scheduled, like a scheduled run to run every morning to say, what's been proposed, how many accounts are in proposed state, where are they proposed, what do I need to review today, who are they proposed by? If you have managers using Fullcast, right, they can propose accounts out of their AI client and you could review them and make sure they're in line with your go-to-market rules or things like that. Okay, I think we're ready to move on to commissions. Coverage was another thing that we did talk about, or at least it's in the agenda item, and I kind of covered that through the what was the one that we did, this AE territory coverage. So just again reiterate that we can assign people and end date coverage, do an analysis on coverage is really important. That's a big ask from a lot of customers in terms of managing coverage at scale, and we can do that with the MCP.
And I don't think you showed the end coverage workflow aspects of it just because it wasn't maybe relevant here in terms of like, okay, we could also clean up targets. All the things that you can do through those workflows are accessible here. So did you already? Oh, sorry.
No, I haven't, but
Oh,
maybe
okay.
say like let's end um well, we'll just say end Nate's coverage in LATAM.
I think this has huge potential if you're one of the primary Fullcast, platform admins, let's say, and you're trying to get consistency across other regional op teams, for example, in terms of what they do when folks leave. What do we do with targets? What do we do with, temporary coverage and so forth? That's stuff where you could really benefit from not only using the workflow, which is accessible through the MCP, but then also codifying your organization's rules for how you deal with a given scenario.
Yeah. And calling this out, it's already determined that Nate's the new assignment we created started August 3rd, and it is recommended that we end Nate's coverage not today, but August 2nd. So it is made an assumption that Nate needs to have continuous coverage through August 2nd because Nate's essentially transferring territories. You could also give it whatever you want, but we'll say we'll do the recommended piece here. LATAM has no other AE, so it'll be left uncovered. How do we want to handle it? Let's go for it. So yeah, this is the uncoverage workflow in and of itself. If there were targets tied to this, I would ask certainly what would we do with the targets. Okay, we want to, this is Bala's world. So I'm going to do the demo, but I'm going to let Bala do all the talking here. So we're going to walk through a reps commission on one deal. So this is really just like the question of, why did I get paid or why did I get paid what I did on the Acme deal or whatever deal that was just closed. And so if you want to get that story, we can certainly ask, hey, why did that happen this way? So we're going to walk us through this. Ashley, do I need to specify the specific pay plan again?
No, this one
No,
I think because
yeah, you can just ask it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Let's just try it. Great.
I wonder I wonder if it will call out that it kind of goes against your default instruction there.
Yeah, I mean, if it finds that it needs an information from you, it's going to ask you to clarify.
Paula's like, I taught it about this, don't worry.
That's right.
All right. And we can go into LATAM. And so here we go. Nate ends August 2nd. We've got a TBR now that we have to go backfill LATAM for. Amazing.
I, I feel like it probably comes across disingenuous, but when I see anything in MCP, in fact, I was going to do a poll. Maybe while you guys are transitioning, I'll launch my poll because I'm just super curious to know, you know, of the people who are joining us today, like, are you using MCP for other platforms in your, day-to-day work? Open also to taking any chat commentary that folks have on this, because I do wonder for us, and this is something that's come up separately about what can we do, if anything, to help you all do internal navigation or etc., to help you be able to start to use this if there are security blockers and so forth. Also, if there's training, like if you're not using MCP for other things, or you're not really using a lot of AI in this capacity, we're happy to provide the prompts like somebody asked earlier, or provide a little bit of scaffolding and support so you can kind of get ideas for what you might want to do. Okay. I talked us, and there we go. Look at that chart. I love a chart. Look at that.
I forgot to kick this off.
Yeah.
I told Ashley I was going to try and keep it down to 2 threads because it's hard to like manage everything. But I spiraled and I did kick this off around, hey, go into Namer and identify any specific industries we should focus in on. And so it went through and there's again no skills behind this, no nothing. It's purely looking at the data, and it is decided that bookings potential is key for us, right? I was really doing this in a for a customer, I would give Claude with a skill, hey, these are the key metrics that we care about, and you need to go do the analysis around them. I wouldn't probably be so open about it, but it has determined, okay, let's go look at the number of accounts and bookings potential. And it says, hey, you should go after manufacturing, and this is why. You've got about 1.3 billion in bookings potential, and you've got about 4,500 Namer accounts to go after. And then here's some other underworked value pockets: are government and education. So these are things that is just great to find additional paths for you in terms of where can we extract more revenue from our go-to-market plan. We've got the go-to-market plan in Fullcast. We've got the rules put in place. This is what we're running today, but what can we double down on? What can we focus in on and really go after? And obviously, you would want to do a little bit more analysis on this before just, assuming that this is the way to go. But this is a great way to inspect and find things that you might be missing otherwise. Okay, this one, right? So, Bala, I'll hand this over to you to talk about some of the commission's outputs here.
Right. I was playing around with Sonnet for most of the stuff that I was working with, and so this is a lot more verbose than I'm used to seeing. Opus certainly is quite wordy. Uh, but yeah, I mean, part of the commission platform is that for every commission that is calculated for you, there is an explanation of how that commission was calculated and what is the specific process, the rate that was used, the specific tiers that it landed in, and again, these are language that is defined in your comp plan. So it's essentially translating that into the way that it's described here. So you see the deal number, opportunity ID, the effective date of that transaction, how much of that was commissionable, what was the commission rate that was used. And you see the committed versus pending, and that's simply a concept in commissions where the committed records are sort of ready for your payroll team to pay off, and then pending records are still what are being worked on for the current commission period. And so it's able to then break that down. It also broke down, if you notice, the quota trajectory, and able to give you a breakdown of the tiering, which is based on the quota and quota attainment. So it gives you somebody that wants to understand how the commission was calculated. It's able to then go in and break down the specifics of what the commission number means.
I think, by the way, I also have instructions to keep this thing as concise as possible in my like broader Claude environment because I have noticed that as the models get smarter, the more they like to write.
Yeah.
And so this is actually truncated probably. I this is what I've gone to HTML files a lot of times because they can do more graphics with
Yep.
the HTML files. It gets tiring to read a lot of this text, and so certainly one thing that I might say is like put this in a beautiful HTML file that's easy to read,
Right.
summarize the information for me, show me graphs, those things, and then you'll get that stuff as an output to understand it through that lens rather than just constantly trying to read through this stuff. I kicked off another one, which was just, show me the top commission deals for Jacob. Um, I don't know if Bali, you've got any specific commentary, but we can just you sorted already top down, top commission deals. We can see all the deals that we were looking at before
That's
with
right.
United Oil and Gas Corp. Looks like maybe some data challenges here with the accounts missing, just giving out free commissions to Jacob.
Exactly. Well, these are the things you want to know before you pay Jacob all his commissions, right? But yeah, I mean, this is a simple enough report. You're just looking at all the deals that Jacob has been given credit for and what opportunities they relate to. And you can see that in deal number 15971 and 9902 has no account ID associated with them. So there's clearly a data problem that it's calling out. Um, and this is tremendously useful for comp admins because they are constantly sort of looking at the commissions and the crediting data to make sure everybody gets paid correctly. But I always say that you pay for all your data sins in your commissions environment because that's where it all shows up. And so this is a constant sort of process of seeing, fixing, cleaning up data gaps that you might have made earlier in the cycle that shows up when you have to pay people.
I am going to kick off two more and pay. Is there anything in the MCP to clean up any of the data, or is that happen still elsewhere?
Say that again, Tyler.
So how would I clean up if I see like in this sense that this is missing an account? Can I do that from the MCP, or do I need to go into Salesforce or?
Usually it's data that's coming from the source, whatever the source system is, so you know where to go clean up. But a few of the things that you can do in commissions is actually add people to a deal, give people credit to a deal, exclude people from specific deals. So you can go back to that chart and just say exclude Jacob out of any deals that does not have an account ID, and it'll just take him out of the credit associated with that. So those kinds of operations that you can do on the UI today, you'll be able to do that here as well.
Wonderful. So the two that I kicked off, the one that we're looking at right now is just seeing, who's getting credit on deals over a certain dollar threshold. I think this was kind of brought up around like people just adding their favorite SEs to deals so that they get credit and thus commission. So just kind of inspecting this thing from the lens of finance and wanting to know, are we giving 15 sales engineers credit on this $1 million deal or not? It's kind of the lens here, and this makes it really easy because it goes and figures all that stuff out for you. Is there anything you'd want to add to that, Paula?
You know, they say always tip your sales engineers. What can I say?
That's true. We'll let that keep running. And the other one that I kicked off was this one is so the prompt here was explain how Jacob's sales manager override on the United deal was calculated, the rate, the commissionable amount, and which attainment tier it landed in. So similar flavor as into how this commission came about. But I think this is a little bit more from a finance lens, or an auditing lens to really understand, okay, well, what specifically happened here?
And one thing that you'll see that it's also called out is the progression of your attainment across your tiers, deal by deal, right? So before the deal, this was the attainment. Post the deal, this was the attainment. And so it's able to sort of show you the progression as you go from one commission steer to the next one, right? And that explanation is kind of something that people are always looking for. Say, if I close these deals, and where does that put me in terms of accelerators, and where does that put me in terms of spiffs and whatnot.
Let's see, this one's still cooking. Any other questions from anybody else? I know we're getting close to the end here. We got about 7 minutes left. Um, I think I have some stuff, but I don't know, Bala, if you've got anything else you want to add in general regarding
Yeah,
MCP.
the one thing that we also added in the MCP is looking at your audit logs as well as your import-export jobs and the statuses of those. So if you're troubleshooting let's say the integration broke down between your Salesforce instance and Fullcast, you can actually go in and just ask it questions and troubleshoot what's going on there. The other thing that you can ask is, look for certain types of behavior across your audit logs. So you can, if you're doing a security scan, you could say, tell me anything suspicious that you see in my audit log. Those kinds of questions are also some things that now we're able to review across the audit logs. Or you can say, tell me everything that Ashley was up to in the last 3 months, and that can spit those kinds of results out as well.
Ashley's been busy. Oh God.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But to go back to the audit logs thing, which is interesting, that's what the sleek freight partner history piece and figuring this stuff out. This was an inspection of the audit logs, right? So it goes, okay, here's sleek. Let me take the sleek ID. Let me go figure out what all those audit logs are, and then determine kind of in this history of what happened and why. And it's even, going back to this, it's gone back and said, well, the rerun overrode the manual placement because the enterprise rule number of accounts is greater than 7,500. and this account has 8,100 employees. This is like a very
Wow.
common ask of like, why did this account get here because of whatever rules? And I would change this prompt if it was just purely rule based of like, why did Sleek land an enterprise based on the rules? And it'll walk you through the whole logic for you, so you can just do that analysis and trust that was what's done. So
Tyler, there's a question from Troy. He doesn't like to see UTC time. Can you just tell Claude to not do it in UTC time?
I don't think in UTC time anymore. So I'm sure you could tell Claude to just tell me in Pacific or
Time zone, yeah.
yeah. Um, this is where we get with the prod training thing. The exports, so are my export jobs working? No, they've been broken since mid-June. So we've got a problem with this environment. I kind of expected this, but it has kind of said, okay, well, here's some of the last failures that have happened, some issues that we can go troubleshoot, and we can go through that process, right? I think that's super helpful for anybody that's looking to inspect on imports and exports. Maybe this is one of those things that you schedule every morning. Go tell me what happened to my jobs. Spit out a report. And then the last thing we'll end on is, ooh, look at. So this is when the last time Ashley has logged in, which was yesterday at 3:12 p.m. UTC, into this prod training tenant.
True.
Calculate. I don't know. That's probably like,
True.
I don't know, 10 a.m. your time, maybe a little bit. No, it's probably a little bit less than that.
I've been on since the wee hours in the morning. I'm gonna start making Claude log me into stuff just in case.
All right.
Um, awesome. I love a poll. I'm gonna launch my poll while you have the final screen up here. So we had already been kind of marinating on what kind of resources we wanted to share with folks as a follow-up to this. So like typical, we'll do the recording. I will kind of, take the prompts that we've already worked on and we've demonstrated here in the session. We'll put those into an article and put that on the support site. There's already a setup guide and a video that Bala put together, so make sure to include the link to that. And I also just deployed a poll about what kind of resource would be the most helpful for you. So I'll take a look at this as well. And it may be that we send those three things, in the immediate follow-up tomorrow, and then we continue to kind of release resources for you all to be able to get started with using the MCP. Again, I'm stoked. If you were to try anything, just think about your coverage assignments. Think about uploading a CSV of coverage assignments. That excites me. That's what I keep going.
I'd go Fable, and I'd just be like, tell me go build a new go-to-market plan out for me. I have a new plan with no territories, and if you were to build a new one, what would you do? And I would just see what comes out of it.
Token max it all the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say, since you kick this off like the day before your thing resets in your org, kick it off and see how far it goes, right?
Yeah,
Or
tokens left.
we didn't talk about this, but this is also a potential prompt. Like if you're weary of this or you're just like really curious, but you're not ready to start doing things, the read is important. I think, Bala, for ages, we had people saying like, print me my go-to-market in a document so that I can share across the business with my stakeholders. What are we actually like? What is our go-to-market strategy as currently deployed through Fullcast? And that is definitely right up. This is exactly a use case for this, where it's like, here is a business ready document that tells exactly your strategy, and then add to that any other history you want to have or all the things in a document.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah.
Cool.
And it's quite easy, just like Tyler showed you, to generate a HTML or a PDF or something that just spits out your go-to-market plan, your coverage model, your targets. All of those things can be quite easily just produced.
Awesome. Thanks for folks for taking the time to reply to this survey. Super helpful feedback for me. Make sure that I capture that before we end. And thanks for coming today. We're super excited to continue to support you all with this. Next month's office hours will be on commissions, which is also very, very exciting. And appreciate your time. We'll get back to you tomorrow.
Thank you all.
You're all.